to episode 27 of Big Boss Battles, Big Boss Babble. Here with me is Dan.
Hello.
And George.
Hey.
Hey. Now, what we're going to talk about today, what with Ready Player One coming out soon, or it may be out now by the time you hear this. I'm not exactly sure when it comes out. We're going to talk about video game movies from the past.
Or the past, if you're not from Yorkshire.
Yeah, I'm not sure why I said it like that. I'm not from Yorkshire. I'm an Essex boy.
Ducks at the bus stop.
You up, lad? Right. Yeah, so video game movies, I should say.
Is Ready Player One sponsoring this episode?
Unfortunately not. That would be quite nice to get some of that Spielberg money, but no, it's not happening.
The magical Spielberg money that manages to get 12 and 15 rated movies released as PG.
Oh,
that sounds like a bit of controversy there.
Yeah.
I'll save this for the Big Boss Battle movie podcast that we don't do.
Okay, fair enough.
Some beef against Spielberg there. What's that all about?
Look at Jurassic Park, man. Look at the rating. How did
It's
that
rated.
happen?
It's a great movie. That's why.
What a load
to be
of
honest,
rubbish.
I do agree with him though that for being the rating it was, there was a guy being ripped in half by a T-Rex and things of that nature. It is a bit odd.
It should have been a 15. It had more violence in it than Lord of the Rings. Lord of the
Oh,
Rings
well,
had violence in it,
kids-
but Lord of the Rings cut away at the right times. Nobody ever
Kids
got their
get that
head
in
cut
video
half.
games all the time now.
Yeah, video games that they also shouldn't be playing technically.
Don't you know video games cause violence, people? God.
Well, obviously.
I'm glad we sorted that out.
There you go.
Still can't believe you did that. Anyway, yes.
So-
If from my era, if video games influenced our behaviour, we would enjoy fumbling around in darkened rooms, eating pills, dancing to repetitive music. Hang on.
That's a Marcus Bridgestock joke, isn't it?
Duh. Yeah, I think so, maybe.
Yeah, that's a Mr. Bridgestock, definitely. Yeah.
We were going to talk about nice things today.
Yes, we are, Dan. Damn you and your controversial opinions.
Sorry.
But, I mean, obviously, there could be some controversial opinions on your opinion of video game movies. Obviously, it's a mixed bag, going from bad to worse. Generally
That's not
speaking.
fair.
I
No.
mean,
To be honest,
they're all
go on,
terrible. They're all terrible. I think we can agree to that, right?
So I wouldn't say they're all terrible. I really enjoy the Resident Evil films.
Oh, wow.
Now, I will admit that they don't really follow the Resident Evil games in any particular way, but for a bunch of zombie action flicks, they're pretty cool.
I liked the first one, and then I think it derailed from there.
But let's be perfectly honest. The first one was really good until they got the laser scene done, and then after that, it didn't really matter.
Yeah, you just turned it off after that. It was like, it's not going to get better than that, is it? Someone becoming chunks. We'll just continue.
And then it's like they knew that was the big bit, because later on when they went back to the room, they were like, the chunks are gone. That's weird. And they were like, something must have done that. It's like, oh, we'll cover that in a sequel 17 movies later, and they're still like, I don't know, it was mice or something.
I know, because they've had animated ones as well, haven't they, in that series?
I don't know if it's with the same characters. They've definitely done CGI versions.
Yeah, I remember the sequel to the Resident Evil movie having, what was his name? That big, stupid zombie monster, and it was just a mask, and it looked awful. And
Tyrant.
Was it Tyrant? Is it Tyrant? Oh my
Tyrant was
God.
the first. Then there was Nemesis, which is what they were injecting Matt with that.
I think it was Nemesis in the second one, wasn't it?
Possibly.
I didn't actually watch the rest.
Oh yeah, well, it was awful. It was awful.
Because I wasn't impressed with the first one, to be honest with you. But I don't know. I don't know. I shouldn't comment because I've not seen them, but I wasn't impressed, particularly with the first one, and from what I'd seen of the further ones, I continued to be not impressed.
Well, we also have...
Go on.
I was going to say, we also have Tomb Raider coming out, by the way.
Another one, yeah. Yeah, 2018 Tomb Raider.
Guessing it doesn't have Chris Barry in it as the...
No, you see, that's why it's going to be rubbish. Because Chris Barry makes anything watchable.
which is weird because I don't know. Yeah, he is a funny person. Just plays a specific set of characters, which is seemingly absent from TV these days. He's a bit like an Alan Partridge of the characters he plays. So.
Yeah. Well, obviously he still does Red Dwarf. Series 12 has only just finished of that. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about video game movies.
If they make a Red Dwarf game other than the mobile one, then this would tie in. But no, go on.
Would.
Go on.
I think there was one a long time ago, you know.
What, a Red Dwarf game?
Almost like a text adventure, I think.
A Red Dwarf point and click. Actually, now you've said that, yes, that rings a bell. Like there was a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy one.
Yep.
But if they made a graphic adventure or a point and click adventure game in the Red Dwarf universe, I'd be over the moon.
Yes, we've talked about that before. That would be absolutely fantastic.
And if we talk about it a third time, it might happen. These are the rules, especially if you're looking in a mirror.
Yeah, is that the rule? Is it? You look in the mirror, say a game you want. Oh, I'm going to, but obviously, I'm guessing it doesn't work for Half-Life because it's a third one, and if you say a three times, that becomes a 9, and it just goes weird.
It doesn't work. 9's not a good number. Official.
But then again, you say 9's a bad number, but 3 is the magic number. So
3 is the magic number. Yeah, but 3 lots of magic. That's not good, is it?
That is true.
No. 3 lots of
What
magic.
are you guys babbling about?
3's a crowd, isn't it? You don't want a crowd of magic, do you? Not in a small, confined space. That could be very dangerous.
Yes, I think it's called a gaggle of magic at that point.
Yes. And it's dangerous even before the geese show up.
Right, we need to stop before we confuse the American any further with our inane babbling.
I'm thoroughly confused. Don't even worry about it. I'm cross-eyed by now.
Yeah, anyway, so the new Tomb Raider apparently is around 50% on the critical rating scale. So it doesn't seem it's going to be brilliant.
Not a surprise.
It's a very hard series to adapt, but then I suppose, as this podcast will probably establish, it's hard to adapt games to movies anyway, because players are used to, because games are designed to have players control the character, and so it's very hard to watch a slice of, characters in action. Yeah,
very true. Very true. I mean, the only games that I can think of making good films now would be the sort of the narrative adventure games.
Which, funnily enough...
Something like Gone Home, or something like that. Gone Home would make a perfect movie. Because it would be able to hit all the same information that you get in the game.
It would be quite different, but yes, I understand what you mean, like Dear Esther as well. But they would very much be art films.
Oh, very much so, yeah.
But they would be good art films. I thought you were going to say things like the Telltale games, but the Telltale games, ironically... are
all based around TV programs and things anyway.
Exactly, that's what I was going to say. And the outlier is obviously when they did the Borderlands series, which got very mixed reviews compared to things like the Game of Thrones one and the long-running Walking Dead one. So
yeah, well, obviously they did Minecraft as well.
Yes,
but Minecraft is a bit different because there is literally no story in Minecraft, so they could literally do whatever they wanted.
And they got a bunch of comedians on who are very talented voice actors and actresses.
And YouTubers.
And that as well. And they just... And it's a money fountain that everybody knows the name of. Like, there's never going to be a Minecraft 2. Like...
It's just going to keep evolving. It's going to be a constant evolution.
It's a Pac-Man. It's a Tetris, People will just be comparing things to it. There will never be a game that transcends it until... You know what I mean.
There was a Pac-Man 2, and the less said about it, the better.
Nobody talks about Tetris 2 and Pac-Man 2, though, do they?
Not particularly... What was Tetris 2?
Probably columns.
What was its gimmick? No, there was an actual Tetris 2, but I can't remember what it was. There was a gimmick to it, though, because there's been loads. There was Tetris Plus and Tetris the Grandmaster and all kind of weird bloody things.
But we don't talk about them.
No. It's weird, though, because even though Tetris came out way before the Game Boy version, the Game Boy version is that version that everyone knows.
Yeah.
Because it came with every single damn Game Boy.
The music as well helped. But it did.
Korbalinski.
Let's.
But anyway, so particularly terrible video game movies. Actually, let's go for the opposite side. What is your favourite video game movie, and why is it Mortal Kombat?
I love this question because that question always shows up. I always see that kind of loaded question when it's geared towards the Mortal Kombat movie, and I don't remember the Mortal Kombat movie, so I'm probably the worst person to interrupt you to start this conversation off. As I get older, I quite like the Street Fighter movie. I think it's really good, terrible, great, terrible,
I've always
abysmal,
kind of
Your
enjoyed it for
fan
a
service.
Favorite? Is your favorite?
It's so good.
Good God.
Sorry, it's so bad that at the same time it's good. It's literally like when you see a college production and you're like, this is funny. I'm laughing because, they know that they're doing a bad job of this. They know that this isn't going to happen, and there was, at the same time, it had something that a lot of video game movies lack, which is that kind of 80s cheese. We grew up, I suppose, the three of us at least, watching these cheesy, terrible 80s action movies with one-liners, and Schwarzenegger being like, "Remember when I said I'd kill you last? I lied." And, just stuff like that. And obviously even the Bond movies, I suppose, with Connery stuff being on repeat. With these kind of one-liners. And Street Fighter very much managed to capture arrive at the right time, that it could still get away with having that kind of 80s level of cheese. You could get away with having some really bad video effects and some really, really bad, makeup effects, I suppose, really. And, so I think
I remember Blanca from the Street Fighter movie. Oh my God.
This is it.
It was just a dude who was painted green, and I think he had orange hair. He looked awful.
Exactly.
It did look bad.
But you could get away with that, and you could get away with the fact that it's like,
No.
they were a camera crew, but actually,
No.
oh my God, they were the characters from Street Fighter. Who knew? I mean, I knew, obviously, because they're going to be in the... But yeah.
But the thing that got me is as well is a way they shoehorn the story to create stuff like that, like Blanca, for example.
They shoehorned everything.
So Blanca, obviously in the games, was a guy a kid who fell out of a plane into the Brazilian jungle or whatever, and then grew up with animals and became Blanca. But in the film, it's Guile's friend Charlie, who's in some of the Street Fighter games, who gets medically experimented on to become Blanca, and Blanca's meant to be some kind of super soldier. But then, taking it even further, he's being experimented on by an Indian doctor who becomes Dhalsim when all his clothes get burnt off.
Makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, it's very odd, but it does kind of come together at the end.
When we're under pressure, we can go through a lot of stuff, so there's been very, very few times where my clothes has been burnt off, where I haven't gained the ability to stretch my limbs and become very introspective and fight people.
So what you're saying is, if I burn my clothes off, I gain stretchy limbs?
Can't guarantee it's the same for you.
Ah, right, okay. I suppose it comes down to genetics then, I suppose.
Risky business.
It's the type of thing you can only test for once.
So
why is Blanca green again?
It's
palette
I don't know, just
related.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know why they say it's green. Whether he's just picked up this green tint from the jungle or something. I don't know.
Green is an odd colour to colour a character, and if you want them to be this weird electric beast, but I suppose what you gonna do,
Is it better than blue though? Champion Edition Player 2 Blanca.
To be honest, I was gonna say you could use blue instead, because that would work.
And then you get into the Super Street Fighter games and you had like 8 different colours, so one of which was basically flesh coloured, and by that point you were so used to Blanca being green it looks really odd.
That's him as Charlie.
Yeah, maybe. But then you have a game like Street Fighter Alpha 3 where Charlie and Blanca are in the same game, and then it all breaks down.
So before we shift on to other people, right? I want to mention a couple of other game movies that I watched, because they might crop up later, they might not. So, I watched the Doom movie. I think I saw that in
Oh,
cinema.
Lord.
And that was pretty cheesy, but at the same time it was Doom. And there was that cool first-person shooter section.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Doom was fairly cheesy and a generic action movie, and it
With
had
The Rock
Dexter
in it.
Fletcher in it. Oh, well, it had Rock in it and Dexter Fletcher in it, which, you know,
Yeah, that's
less
it.
said about that, the better. But then, yeah, it's just, at the end, they do that first-person thing, and you're like, yeah, right, that's
The
pretty
whole
damn cool.
thing's worth it now, exactly.
Yeah.
On the subject of The Rock, obviously he's in the Rampage movie
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
that's coming up. But let's not talk about that more. That could be interesting. Rampage is a game that's so old now that you could probably do anything to it and get away with it,
Yeah.
I should think. It's
Well,
going to
so
be
the
pretty
concept
hard
of Rampage was always, it's kind of King Kong with his mates.
Yeah, pretty much, wasn't it?
So, yeah,
This
you can
person's
do
a
anything they
lizard,
want.
and you basically just eat people in the bathtub and don't eat the electric people. So, I also saw the Silent Hill film, which got pretty weird, but
The first one or the second one?
the first one, I think, the one where Sean Bean was in the film but didn't
Yeah.
need to be in the film,
And didn't die.
yeah, because he'd never went into Silent Hill. He just walked around with
Oh,
Kim
yeah.
Coates going, "Hey, I can't find my family. Where are they?" And at the end, it was like, "Still can't find my family," and it was like the end of the film.
I must admit, though, with Silent Hill, I enjoyed the Silent Hill movie, and I've never even really played the Silent Hill games, but I have seen them, and I think the Silent Hill movie gets the look of the game.
A foggy, moody,
Perfectly.
horror.
Well, but even that bit where she's in the bathroom and they do that transform into the Silent Hill world and everything starts flaking off and burning up and things, they get the look of the game.
That's fair.
Yeah, Silent Hill wasn't bad.
Silent Hill 2 was a bit weird, but the first one was cool.
So
Is that the one where some lady gets like her skin just ripped off, or is that the first one? I forget.
the first one, she's there's the police officer who's she's like crucified and then burnt alive.
Yeah.
Yep. Meanwhile, outside Pyramid Head starts doing all weird stuff, and that's kind of
I
like
just-
the low point of the movie.
I remember Pyramid Head like literally just grabbing somebody's skin and ripping it off like a Band-Aid at some point.
Yeah, that might be the
Like
first
that
one.
was ridiculous.
Yeah, that might be the first one. It was a little bit extreme at times, but I think I agree with Terry that it captured the feel of the game. Another one I've seen that I actually kind of quite enjoyed was the Hitman movie. So I played
Which one?
once again the first one. This
Okay.
was Timothy Oliphant rather than Rupert surname.
So you're actually talking about the 2015 one? Oh no, hang on.
2007?
Yeah, did he play that character in both films?
No. There was a different bloke in the second one. Rupert something. Pretty sure it was Rupert something.
Fair enough.
Should have done my research. But Timothy Oliphant was in the earlier one, and it was basically a transporter movie. You know the Jason Statham series,
Yep.
where there's this guy who just manages to kill his way through everyone and do ridiculous things like, oh my god, I've been tied to a vehicle that's been sunk underneath a lake, and yet here I am with a parachute in the boot so I can release the air from the tyre of my car and survive. You know, and yeah, it was that really. So it wasn't a very good Hitman video game movie, but it was a pretty good, once again I suppose, 80s cheesy look at what this ridiculous person is doing now movie.
Yeah.
And then I suppose finally, so I can let other people talk, I did watch the Postal movie, and it was so terrible that I forgot that there was a Postal game and was laughing at how bad the movie was. But the movie was at the same time quite self-aware that it was bad, which I believe even included the director of the movie getting killed in the movie, which is
Well,
Hugh
yeah,
Boll, who
plus-
obviously was, I believe he was probably dressed as a Nazi, knowing Hugh Boll, but
Yeah. Plus, obviously, the fact that they had a crane crashing into the World Trade Center as well.
I don't even remember any of that. It was just a numb time and a mindless film. But you know, that one, I suppose that was so separate from the game that it just existed as kind of one of those pulpy movies that you'd leave on TV, like Mega T-Rex versus Arachnophobe.
Yeah.
Dinosaur
Well, obviously,
jelly
we kind of know
beast.
that Uwe Boll doesn't even like games. He just buys up these things, and he hardly knows anything about the games with the films that he makes. Supposed to, he was just like, this guy goes mad and just does silly things, and he just made a movie about that.
I watched Blood Rain, actually. I mentioned Silent Hill earlier. I mentioned Kim Coates, and he was in the Blood Rain movie, and the Blood Rain movie was terrible.
Awful.
Absolutely ridiculous. I mean, like, it ranked, it wasn't, I mean, I'm the person that watches those weird Dungeons and Dragons live action movies that they do every so often,
I like the first one.
Which one was the first one?
The one with the kid from Lois and Clark. What was that movie called? I think it was just Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, fair. I've not seen that one. I'm talking about, like, when people started pumping them out really cheap for sci-fi channels.
Okay.
With, like, hello, yes, I'm obviously a lizard man. Hello.
Mine's had a Wayans brother in it.
Oh, right. No. Nothing as high profile as that. I promise. I can sit and watch that mindless stuff for days.
High profile, low brow. That's how I describe the Wayans brothers.
But yeah, I can sit and watch that mindless stuff for days. But yes, let's move on to someone else now that I've embarrassed myself thoroughly.
Oh, okay, my turn. I just want to comment. Yeah, my best friend said, like, oh my god, Blood Rain's gonna be the best movie ever. He actually dragged me to the theater, paid for my ticket, and made me watch that terrible film. I mean, not even unnecessary nudity could save that movie. It was just awful. But I can top Dan, because my movie, I think, is probably the most hated movie. But for some reason, it's just a movie that I just kind of love personally, and that's the Super Mario movie.
I completely forgot to mention it. You know what?
I completely agree with George. I love that film.
That's getting better. That's another one, like Street Fighter, in my opinion. That's just getting better with time.
Yeah.
It's so hard to adapt Mario to film that whatever they do, it's going to be unsatisfactory. So let's face it, why not get Dennis Hopper and and put people through a machine
and make their lives miserable for 6 or 7 months or whatever it was.
I heard this described once as this film is as if Terry Gilliam did it, and I can completely agree with that statement, because it is completely bonkers.
It is as if somebody gave a script to Terry Gilliam and then he fed it through the Terry Gilliam machine, and it spat out.
Yeah, because like you say, Mario's not really a game that you can do a live action interpretation of, especially back then. This was 1993.
Yeah.
This was, I think Super Mario World had only just come out on the SNES. So there wasn't this massive lore and a massive abundance of characters like there is now. It was just literally Mario, Luigi, and the Princess, and Bowser.
And Yoshi. Yoshi was there.
Well, Yoshi was there as well, yeah. But...
kind of.
Yeah, terribly... a terrible puppet, Yoshi. But you bring that up. I appreciate it just because of the amount of links
stupidity
and Easter eggs and references that they managed to cram into that movie. Everything is there. You just have to look for it.
I remember as a kid, like the scene where they show you the king and he's like this big giant snot monster. That scared the crap out of me when I was a kid.
Yeah, he got turned into this big. Yeah,
the fungus.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to running this podcast on the site as the B3 team defend Mario Brothers.
No, I'm not defending it. I mean, obviously, it's like you said, it's god awful, but it's gotten to that point where you kind of appreciate it now that you're older. I mean, at least like you said, like Street Fighter, it's just, it's still awful, but it's something that's so awful that it became good.
You say it's
And
awful, but once I've kidnapped the Queen of England, I'll be able to sell Super Mario Bros. DVDs for 10 British pounds.
See, it worked better the other day when you were talking about Dan dollars. You stretched that Street Fighter reference a bit too far then.
Yeah, sorry, it was the wrong way round, wasn't it, really?
It was, yeah.
But that is a reference that I am willing to use continually, and I am so surprised that the internet isn't all over that.
I have one more movie up my sleeve I don't think anybody remembers. Does anybody remember the Wing Commander movie?
Oh, that was pretty much the first one, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the only one, I'm pretty sure.
No, I mean like the first video game movie.
Oh, I have no idea. I don't think so.
It would have been very early.
I'm looking at
99,
it's
according to this.
99.
Yeah, 99.
Not quite late then. Well, I mean, I suppose with the amount of FMV that the Wing Commander games had,
Is that
and most
Freddie
of them
Prinze
pretty much
Jr.?
had a.
Yes, and Matthew Lillard.
I can see David Suchet here.
It was a good movie, actually. Like, if you sit down and watch it, it's not a bad movie. It has a plot, there's a middle, there's an end. It's not a bad movie. People hated it, though.
Yeah, but like I say, with how much FMV were in the Wing Commander games, they pretty much had a movie in every game anyway. You just had little interactive bits between them. So yeah, I'm not surprised that that got a movie, and it was pretty well done.
Let's
I mean,
see.
it's terrible, but
We also have other classics like the Dead or Alive movie.
I heard about that. I didn't watch it.
I did. Again, same friend. I hate him. And of course, we have the Warcraft movie. What did everybody think of that?
Hey, now I heard that the Warcraft movie was exceptionally good, and I've got a lot of respect for the director, but I haven't seen it yet. I did see the interview where a fan of the game representing the BBC interviewed them and got up and walked out partway through. But then I see a lot of people who have a lot of, got a lot of enjoyment from that movie. So I don't know. I'll watch it someday.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either. I see it as something that is technically a very impressive film, but it probably falls down on the story because there's too much in Warcraft to be able to put cram into a movie.
See, that's the problem. They kind of what they did is what I like to call the Game of Thrones effect. They threw a lot of names and like kingdoms and factions and a lot of stuff at you that if you weren't a fan, you were like, what? And confused throughout the entire film. But if you kind of knew the lore and if you kind of knew everything about like the universe itself, it was a decent movie. But it was just too much for 2 hours.
But that's going to be a problem with a lot of games because old games didn't have any bloody plot, and now they lay it on thick even when it's not needed. And so there's no middle ground. It must be so hard to try and translate a game that somebody can spend 30 hours playing into an hour and a half.
Yeah, I suppose it depends because a lot of games, even when they have story, the interactive parts of the game, if you were to put it into a film, would probably just be a very quick little sequence. It wouldn't be like half an hour killing a boss. You might have a 2-minute battle in a film or something like that. So, yeah, I don't know. You might be able to condense it down. I suppose if it's very, very over story heavy and something like Warcraft, which has lore that goes beyond one game and there's this whole thing behind it, it's a bit more difficult.
So we'll do a rapid fire round later. I've got an idea for a rapid fire round. We'll do that.
Okay.
Okay.
But yeah, Terry, tell us about your Mortal Kombat that you want to talk about.
Well, the thing I like about Mortal Kombat is that... Shut up. No, I think out of all the video game movies that have been around, it is the closest to what the game would be and what the sort of story and lore of the game is as well. You know, there's no real mucking around. It gets straight into it. It introduces a few characters. You know, Liu Kang ends up in Japan in a monastery because his brother's been killed by Shang Tsung, it turns out. Then it flips to Johnny Cage on a movie set and all this kind of stuff. And then they all turn up at this boat. And you meet Shang Tsung and he mentions the Mortal Kombat tournament. They go there. There's a bunch of fighting and stuff. And it's not overly story heavy. It's just... people go to an island to compete in the Mortal Kombat tournament. It's for the planet or whatever because they've won 9 out of 10 that they need to win. And then there's just a bunch of fight sequences between all the different characters of the game.
So is it just Enter the Dragon but with Mortal Kombat characters?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's fine.
It's just a bunch of fights.
That's fine. They should do that with Tekken.
Yeah, it's a shame they couldn't keep it up with the second Mortal Kombat film. But the first Mortal Kombat film is, I mean, yes, it is very basic in its premise, but it is just Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, and I think the strength of and I can't believe I'm going to say this, the strength of the first Mortal Kombat movie is that it kind of kept things as real as possible. I mean, it had that, outworld element, and it had like Shang Tsung sucking somebody's soul out of their body, but it kind of kept it as real as possible. Whereas the second one just kind of went completely off the rails.
Yeah,
it just lost its mind.
In the first one, I like the fact that every now and again you got a tiny snippet of audio from the actual game. Like Reptile's in the movie, and he's actually a proper shape-shifting lizard. And at one point he gets he gets thrown back into like the open chest of a corpse that's being pinned up in Overworld, and you just hear Reptile. And he just morphs into a proper ninja with a green suit like Reptile is. And I was when I first saw that when I was a kid, I was like, yes. But yeah, it's just a pure nostalgia film for me. I loved it when I was a kid, so I still do.
The best part of that movie is Kerry Takagawa, the guy who played Shang Tsung. That guy is so awesome.
When he says flawless victory, it makes you tingle. Or was it just when it was, you weak, pathetic fools? He says that as well because that's a classic Mortal Kombat line. And he plays that so good. I do love it. So Dan, your quick fire idea, go on.
This should be a good one. Okay, so games that can be adapted to films, and why not? Let's go. FTL. FTL, Faster Than Light.
I've not played it, so I can't really say anything.
George.
So it's Star Trek. That's what that is.
So, what's the joy of FTL, right? It's playing it again. It's having those different experiences, yeah. So it doesn't translate.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Although, having said that, right, I'm just putting this out there. Who remembers the Cluedo film?
That was great. Clue? Yeah, that was brilliant.
Yeah. You see?
One of the best.
So how about
with
if
the
they were to do
optional endings?
FTL with a bunch of different endings?
No, a good
One character
God.
running around like a crazy lunatic on a spaceship explaining all the different endings.
Tim Curry at his best.
Yes.
But yeah,
I can't believe I forgot that movie. That is one of the best.
such a great movie. I need to watch that.
And
again.
that's a movie based on a game, not a video game.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Board game.
But then we have to bring up battleships, and we're not going down that route.
Oh God.
That was my next one.
No.
It's been done.
No, it has been done. Yeah, it had Rihanna in it as well, didn't it? They literally went, yeah, and Liam Neeson,
Yeah.
who I'm sure at some point said, "You sank my battleship."
So, what's the question? Games that need to be made into movies? Is that the question?
Well, you know what I built up to that, but no, let's talk about certain games that can't be turned into movies because of the
Binding of
elements.
Isaac.
Yeah. Oh damn! What? Because of the damn?
Because he's a naked crying baby.
Yeah,
It could work as an adult animation if they kept the art style. They could probably get away with it.
Straight up live action that just can't happen.
A live action with a walking fetus killing things with its tears.
Exactly.
That's just terrifying. That's some Japanese horror crap right there.
I bought Binding of Isaac on launch, and I've still not got round to booting it because every time I'm like, Imagery. No, it's fine. They've already got my money. It's okay. And similarly, though, Zelda wouldn't translate well. The adventure.
But they are.
Yeah, apparently.
They
Netflix
are.
is making it.
Are they going
Yeah.
to? Is he going to fight through 8 dungeons, and then go?
Well, no, I disagree with you here. I think Zelda is a game that could work purely because there's been so many different Zelda games, and quite a lot of them have been done in different ways. And with Breath of the Wild completely flipping the way things work, it's one of those things that has generally a big world, and it's a simple premise. Man in green suit kills monsters, saves princess. It's a simple premise, and but, you know what I'm saying? It's a simple premise. They've already got a world. You could have the Temple of Time, and you've got Hyrule Castle and Hyrule Market Field, and all that kind of stuff. You've got all the set pieces already there, and they could pretty much do anything with it. It's a simple premise, though. You're saving the princess, defeating Ganon. Done.
Well, it's been very hush. I haven't heard anything about it since they announced a year ago, I think. But yeah, they are making a Legend of Zelda show for Netflix
As a show,
and I think it's going to be even live action.
if they record the whole series, they could like how the Sonic the Hedgehog show was actually quite good.
Dungeon per episode, Dan.
Dungeon per episode, I love it. Where do I sign? Dungeon per
sounds
episode.
good.
What a twist! There's 12 episodes, so
And obviously they're doing Mario as well. Mario is being made into a film, but that's going to be animated.
Yeah, it's going to be animated, so that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. as long as they keep Charles Martinet. Because I know they when they do films like this, they always have a tendency of going, oh, we'll get big famous names in. But you cannot have Mario without Charles Martinet.
I was reading that he signed on before Mario had a voice. He signed
Yeah.
on for a Mario Teaches Typing or something like that.
Yeah, it did. It came from a different thing. Plus the fact he didn't know what the voice was going to be until he walked in, and he just basically just walked in and went, "Oh, it's me, Mario," and they went, "Fantastic, that's it, done."
Do the
And,
worst Italian accent you can.
Yeah, basically it was.
That's it, and it worked. And now he's got a job for life, and he's a
Yeah,
happy
well, he does
chappy.
loads of them, doesn't he? He does Waluigi, Luigi, Wario,
That's it.
a ton of other ones, and of course Parthenax in Skyrim.
I didn't kill Parthenax in Skyrim. So Skyrim's another one that wouldn't translate well to film.
No, see now, I would agree that Skyrim, no, leave it, but just an overarching Elder Scrolls film, potentially set in another realm or province that hasn't been covered in a game, they could probably get away with. Something set in the universe, but not based on one of the games.
Yeah, I think they could. I think they could do Elder Scrolls pretty easily. There's enough lore there and
It'd have
enough
to be
micro stories.
It'd have to be such a small slice. Like if they did the whole. Have both of you kind of finished the main story arc in Skyrim?
Yeah, many times.
Are you going to spoil something? It's only been 20 years since the game came out.
Yes, but they re-release it every 5 years, so I can't be sure that you.
Oh, it's true.
Yeah. So obviously the characters or the people, I suppose, that went up to the mountaintop and enslaved Alduin the first time round, they had a pretty epic run. So they could probably do something about that, and that has that good kind of cheesy. I'm going to go back to the 80s again. That has that cheesy 80s kind of group thing to it, like Buckaroo Banzai or I guess all of the general pulp films, going back to things like Man of Bronze, or even things like the Mummy film that they did, The Scorpion King, where all of a sudden you had the random archer that saved the mage, and the mage then saved the rogue, and the rogue then saved the archer, and then everyone was best mates, So they could certainly do something like that. I honestly think that there needs to be a degree of cheese and kind of malfunction on modern cinema qualities for video game
if you're doing a
movies
video
to deliver.
game if you're doing a video game movie, you cannot take it seriously.
No, exactly. Because, damn, the audience will anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's one that you can't really make into a movie. Bomberman.
You know,
That would be hilarious.
you know. Did you ever play Silent Bomber on the PS1?
No.
Really?
Yeah, I've not played that one.
You should. It's very good. They managed to... Essentially, you were just setting remote mines and then detonating them to fight enemies and fight bosses, but they managed to bring the whole placing of mines into a narrative, and that was very, very good. Silent Bomber, really good. And it had that cinematic, loose story. I think it was Konami? I think I got a demo? It might not have been.
I just think with this, age of terrorism that
There are certain words that are not welcome. No, that's completely fair.
No.
Sorry, a movie that we didn't mention earlier, I don't know if either of you have seen it, but the Ratchet and Clank movie.
Oh my god, yeah, that was a couple of years ago, wasn't it?
I enjoyed that for what it was. And I think I enjoyed it more because apparently a lot of it was animated by the people who did the cutscenes in the games, and they had all the voice actors from the games in it. So it was basically just a big long cutscene done by the original people, and I think I just appreciated that more. And I thought it was pretty well done.
It slipped under the radar. I haven't actually seen it, but yeah, I've heard of it.
It wasn't a big blockbuster thing. It was literally, like I said, it was mostly pretty much done by the devs of the game.
It was bundled with one of the games, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. You
it was
the game and the Blu-ray, which was but I thought it was alright.
Off subject, I just want to bring up something. I just want to put out the idea of a Legend of Zelda MMO. I've been bouncing around that in my head a lot recently, and I think that would be awesome.
See, now, my issue with that is that unlike Skyrim and Elder Scrolls, where you've got an MMO now, but that your player character is a Joe nobody pretty much. You make whatever character you want and go about your business. Zelda, you are Link.
You are the hero of time.
You can't have thousands of Links.
No, but you could play like a Goron or a Zora or a Kokori kid. I think it would be cool.
Nah.
Well, there you go. That's just it. Nah. All right.
I've played probably a dozen MMOs, and they're all based around being the hero of the world, right? They're all based around you possibly being the one, even if you have to team up with other suckers, you possibly being the one that is leading the story forwards, and I can't see how that would work if you weren't, the one in the green clothes.
Because there was other heroes in Breath of the Wild. They were all there, and they all looked cool and helped you, even if they were dead. Spoilers.
I've not played that yet, so...
Oh.
No, he had the opportunity, but...
Yeah, no, it's absolutely fine. I mean, I quite like the idea if in that game there are other heroes about, even if they are dead. I mean, I am the grumpy man who says Fable 1 was the best Fable, so, I can...
How about a Fable movie?
I'd watch a Fable movie.
Just don't let any Peter Molyneux near it, please.
Now. He's learnt his lesson. He's not allowed to be a game designer on stage. It's fine. He's learnt. He has to just be a PR guy on stage. Let him off.
Alright. Just this once.
Yeah.
A Fable movie would be interesting because you would have to... Well, I think you'd have to, kind of frame it so you have two characters and showing them kind of progress down the different moralities, one eating a crunchy chick, another one saving somebody, that kind of thing.
Chicken taster.
That would be good, actually. That's a good idea. Have basically two protagonists, and the film just constantly flips between them, and occasionally they meet and all that kind of stuff, and one becomes the evil villain and one becomes the hero of Albion or whatever.
That'd be cool.
It was such an odd... I mean, the first one, obviously, your sister was kidnapped and dragged away, and so you went off to rescue them, and you could rescue them as the hero or as a villainous, hero in the original Fable universe was just somebody with extreme power, somebody who would go down in history. rather than a hero as in saving people. And so, yeah, stuff like that could happen. Your mate who you studied with, was it... I can't remember her name. But her dad was Thunder, who was this already pre-existing hero in the setting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it's just so weird that the second one they were like, yeah, all the heroes are dead, shut up.
Well, that's because it was like 500 years later or something,
Yeah,
right?
and then in the third one they were like, yeah, all the heroes are dead, shut up. And they were like, oh, you're doing magic, you're the demon. So it's like... So if they had made a fourth one, it would have literally been like, you're breathing. Wow, not allowed. Not allowed at all. No.
I don't recognize Fable 3 as a game. I didn't just know.
Hey,
Fable 3 was a half game. They didn't finish it.
It had some interesting ideas, but it felt like it was leading you somewhere, and then it didn't.
Yeah, it just went right. I mean, to be honest, the first 2/3 of the game were cool. It was just Fable, and then the last third was just like, oh yeah, make these choices.
Yeah,
and that was all you did. It was just like a choose your own adventure game at that point. You didn't do anything.
But the big twist that led to that third was a very, I suppose, smart maneuver.
Yeah.
In the same way that in Fable 2 they just went, oh, by the way, you're in prison now, and so blah blah blah, come back, blah blah blah, big choice. So.
But Fable 2 had a dog.
Which you could, allow to die to save your family or save the people.
Yeah, I didn't. I resurrected my dog.
Yeah.
Screw everybody else.
Yeah, I just save scummed it to get the free endings. Although I did play through it again later, but yeah.
Right, well, see, that has been one interesting podcast, and it's gone on a fair bit longer than usual, so I hope you've stuck with us and enjoyed the podcast this week. So, from me and Dan and George, we will see you next time. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.